For decades, Hong Kong has stood as a symbol of freedom and prosperity in the heart of Asia, a unique city where East meets West, blending Chinese traditions with British colonial legacies. But beneath its glimmering skyline and thriving economy lies a tragic story, a story of slow suppression, quiet resistance, and the slow erosion of its promised freedoms. In 1997, Hong Kong was handed back to China under the principle of one country, two systems. This arrangement was meant to guarantee the city's autonomy for 50 years, preserving its political freedoms, legal system, and way of life, distinct from mainland China. But just over 2 decades later, that promise is crumbling. Bit by bit, piece by piece, Hong Kong's autonomy has been chipped away, leaving its citizens to watch as their city undergoes a slow and quiet death. The first tremors of discontent erupted in 2014, when the umbrella movement swept through Hong Kong. Thousands took to the streets demanding universal suffrage and the right to freely elect their leaders. What started as hope for change turned into a powerful symbol of resistance. But Beijing had other plans. The protests were met with force, and though they captured the world's attention, the movement eventually fizzled, unable to win any concessions. It was a battle lost, but the war had only just begun. In 2019, Hong Kong rose up once again. This time, the people were fighting against an extradition bill that threatened to bring Hong Kongers under the jurisdiction of mainland China's opaque and authoritarian legal system. Millions marched in the streets. It was a moment of defiance, a loud cry for freedom in the face of growing repression. But the government's response was swift and brutal. Tear gas, rubber bullets, mass arrests. The world watched as Hong Kong's streets turned into battlegrounds. And still, the people fought on, unwilling to let their city fall without a fight. Then came the national security law in 2020, a turning point in Hong Kong's fate. With sweeping powers, this law criminalized dissent, labeled activists as terrorists, and gave Beijing unchecked authority to silence any opposition. Many of Hong Kong's most outspoken voices have been jailed, exiled, or silenced. The city that once prided itself on freedom of speech and assembly now fears the knock on the door in the middle of the night. Hong Kong's death isn't marked by a single moment or event. It's a slow unraveling. Laws passed in the dead of night, protests quelled without warning, freedoms vanishing without fanfare. Each step taken by Beijing feels calculated, as if to erase the essence of what Hong Kong once was without causing a global outcry. And yet, life goes on in Hong Kong. For the everyday citizen, the struggle is no longer in the streets but in finding ways to live within a system that feels foreign to them, that feels oppressive. Quiet acts of defiance still linger. Small protests, silent boycotts, anonymous graffiti. According to a journalist of Hong Kong, they want us to forget what Hong Kong stood for. They want us to feel like there's nothing left to fight for. But we remember. We always will. Hong Kong may be changing. The freedoms it once enjoyed may be slipping away. But the spirit of its people endures. And while Beijing may control the laws and the land, the heart of Hong Kong beats quietly in those who refuse to give up. The death of Hong Kong is slow and quiet, but it's not yet complete. And as long as there are those willing to resist, hope remains. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into global issues. Let us know in the comments what you think about Hong Kong's future and if there's hope for freedom to return.